season to die. This is not your season to quit. There's joy, there's peace, there's breakthrough, there's provision, but you'll never see it if you don't. Oh, you better high five somebody, tell them, baby, you're going to stand up. You're going to stand up. You're going to stand. If you got to stand up and I got to prop you up. My mother and my father divorced when I was 6 months old. I have no memory of my father being in the house. And what was over me, what defined me, what limited me much of my life was the fact that my father was never there. As a matter of fact, to be truthful, I didn't even really love myself. I had a problem with my skin color because I felt like maybe I was unlovable, and maybe that was part of the reason that dad just left. As a matter of fact, what made it even worse is that when I was growing up, dark-skinned men were not in. Okay, y'all want to act like that? Okay, y'all want to act like, okay. When I was growing up, yeah, who was in was Al B. Sure, and I know y'all don't know who that is, and Christopher Williams. Y'all, okay. You better get that. Oh, y'all do know who it is. Every time I would hear them, they would make me sick, light-skinned jokers. And so, because I didn't love myself and because I had an issue with my skin color because dad wasn't there, he never showed me what it was like to be a man and to be dark-skinned and to be handsome. I did all kinds of stuff trying to be lovable. I messed around one day and got some hazel contacts. Now, a joker as dark as me should never be wearing hazel. I look possessed. It was a hot mess. And every time I kept asking God, why couldn't my father be around like all my other friends? And why couldn't he teach me how to play basketball? And why couldn't he teach me how to take somebody out on a date? And why couldn't he teach me how to tie a bow tie and buy suits and all of that kind of stuff? Every time I asked God questions, God kept responding with one statement: stand up to it. What do you do when you're asking God questions but he's responding with statements? God kept saying, stand up to it, stand up to it. God said, so what are you going to do? Are you going to let it continue to define your life? Or are you going to stand up to it? And I'm here to tell you that if I never stood up to it, I'd be in prison by now. If I never stood up to it, I'd be sleeping under somebody's bridge by now. If I never stood up to it, I'd have AIDS by now. If I never stood up to it, there's no way I'd be able to marry that amazing woman. If I never stood up to it, I would have missed the opportunity to be the father to my kids that I wish my dad would have been to me. Who am I teaching to? I've come to tell you, no matter how difficult it is, baby, you better stand up. When God gets ready to do a new thing in your life, often the greatest attack will be from traditional, old school minded people. And I've come to teach to some of you because God is showing you something that is so out of the box. God is doing something in you that is so out of the box. God is revealing something that is so out of the box that when you go home, many of the people that you do life with, they will not understand. But don't you dare put the dream that God has for you in the prison of somebody else's expectation. Don't you dare abort God's will for your life on the altar of trying to please people. You gotta push past the expectations of other folk and move into what God has for you. Oh, I'm out of time. The mere fact that I'm standing on this stage in Atlanta, Georgia is evidence that if you push past the expectations of people, God will do something unprecedented in your life. Wait a minute. Y'all saying I don't get it. He's from Birmingham. I'm not from Birmingham. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. And when I was a senior in high school, I was in a Christian summer camp in Montreat, North Carolina. A man by the name of Jerry Cannon was preaching the word. And I was a young kid, but while he was preaching, I heard the voice of God. God called me to ministry. I came back to Atlanta, Jazz, and I started trying to fit in with all of the other preachers in the city. And what the preachers were telling me is that I had to dress like them in order to get their approval. So I started spending money I didn't have to try to please people that didn't even like me. And they still didn't accept me. Then, Chris, they started saying that we don't like you because you don't preach like us, Moody. But if you start preaching like us, and the Lord said, if you start preaching like us, then we'll like you. So I started trying to preach like them, and they still didn't accept me. So God pulled me out of Atlanta, dropped me in a city where I didn't know nobody, so that I could do what he called me to do. They said nobody would ever listen to me. They said nobody would ever like my teaching. They said you're never gonna amount to nothing. What I'm trying to tell some lady up in here, is you have changed your hair 1,000 different ways, they still didn't like you. You lost weight, they didn't like you. You gained weight, they didn't like you. You went on Jenny Craig, they didn't like you. Atkins, they didn't like you. Paleo, they didn't like you. By now, baby, it's time for you to do you. How about somebody say, do you, do you, do you, do you, do you, do. You're not high-fiving the right person. If they like you, fine. If they don't like you, fine. Go home and do you. If they invite you over to the house, fine. If they don't, you still gonna be fine. Learn how to take yourself out. Buy yourself dinner. Sit across the table from yourself and say, self, you look good.